Good morning, everybody. Good morning to the listening public and the officers and members attending remotely. Welcome to this, one of the first, I think the second meeting of the Standards Committee as it is currently constituted. It was previously the Audit and Standards Committee. A few notices to start with. Those of you with phones, please put them on silent. There are no fire alarms scheduled for this morning, so if there is one, we will evacuate and Julie will indicate the appropriate exit that we should make for. Also, when contributing to the meeting, please remember to use your microphone button, because even though we can all hear each other in the room, those attending remotely would not be able to hear you, and your comments won't appear on the subsequent recording of the meeting. Fine, thank you for that. Before we start, and again, because this is a recently constituted committee and there are lots of people who won't be terribly familiar to members of the public, might I ask you to introduce yourselves, and I'd like to go around to the table, if you would, Rose.
Hello, morning everybody. I'm Rose Durban and I'm the independent person, one of two for this council.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Adams. I'm the Head of Digital and Customer Services. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Martin Griffiths. I'm the Rother Association of Local Councils representative on this committee.
My name is Keith Robertson, and same as Martin, I'm also a representative of town and parish councils.
Good morning, I'm Polly Gray. I'm the Vice Chair of this committee.
I hope I've pressed it correctly, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I'm Butter Singh. I'm the new monitoring officer for the council. I'm also the Director of Governance and Community Services, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a nod to Glastonbury Week, I would ask you now to put your hands together for your Rother Standards Committee. Okay. Item 1, first thing I need to do is to seek your authorisation to sign the minutes of the meeting at which I was appointed and the subsequent meeting of the Standards Committee. Do I have your permission to sign? Wonderful. Item 2, apologies and substitutes. Julie, do we have any apologies?
So we have apologies from Bob Brown, one of the independent persons, and we also have apologies from the Deputy Chief Executive as well, Andrew Vallance.
Thank you. And additional agenda items?
There's none, Chair.
And disclosure of interests and dispensations? Now, it's my intention to take items 5, 6, 7 and 8 on the agenda, virtually together, 5 and 6 together, and 5, 6, 7 and 8 will all be led by our Monitoring Officer, Butter Singh. Butter?
Thank you, Chair. In the interest of time, I'll assume everyone's read the report, Chair, so taking items 5 and 6 together, which relate to the report in terms of the complaints that have been received, one for the 6 monthly period and one for the annual period, Chair. Committee last sat in December, Chair, 2024, and in terms of the 6 monthly report, Chair, that's outlined within item 5, and it outlines that there's been 16 complaints received during that time, Chair, with 12 being concluded. Chair, I won't give much more information in relation to that. There is an appendices which outlines the complaints that have been received and those that have been determined and how they've been determined, Chair, and those that are still outstanding. Chair, my colleague Petra, the Deputy Monitoring Officer is remotely present, Chair. I think she dealt with most of those via the triage system. So although, Chair, we're not, I don't think it's appropriate to go into any detail about any of the complaints per se. If members want to consider and discuss any themes or any issues in relation to the generality of things, Chair, I think perhaps that can be taken after I just briefly summarise item 6, Chair. So moving on to item 6, Chair, you'll see that overall, Chair, that if I turn to paragraph 9 on item 6, there was a total of 28 complaints, Chair, with 4 still ongoing. You'll see, Chair, within paragraph 9, the table that's contained there, that one of the complaints relate to the district councils and the rest relate to parish and town councils and councillors. Chair, there's a slight typo there. So in terms of being dismissed and not upheld, it wasn't 130, which is 13, Chair. Total, yeah, totally 23 in total. Yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
Chair, as I said, the triage system has been in place and my colleague Petra has been using that. In terms of any specific training needs, Chair, I would say that relates essentially to those for the district. In terms of town and parishes, Chair, that's ultimately a matter of them, but I'm happy for discussion to be had by myself and the Chief Executive, Lorna, with regards to the other town and parish councils, with regards to the town and parish councils, Chair, in terms of how they would want to deal with their own member training going forward. Chair, I think I'll leave it for there for now. If there's any specific questions, Chair, myself and my colleague Petra, I'm sure we'll be able to help.
So, do we have any questions from the floor or any questions remotely? Councillor Gray?
Butter, just looking at Appendix 1, where you list the 16 parish complaints, I just wonder whether they are 16 separate councillors involved or whether it's just maybe 1 or 2 councillors that are causing difficulties.
Chair, I'll let my colleague Petra come in at this point, but I think in the report it's summarised that I think it's a few and there's a number from those few, but I'll let my colleague explain in detail, Chair.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Petra. In answer to your specific question, over the last 6 months when I have been here, we had what was known as a three-hander. So one councillor was making allegations against 3 other councillors in one parish. The rest were individual councillors against councillors. A number of different parishes were involved in the entirety of the table of complaints. Does that help?
Oh, thank you, Petra. That does help.
Good.
So just further to that point, really, I just want to ask about trend, really. RALC, for the area local councils, have been trying to support councils to sign up to the Respect Pledge. We kind of hope that that might be helping. It looks like the number of complaints are down compared to previous years or periods. And it sounds like actually there's only 1 or 2 councils who are pushing most of the complaints. Is that correct? And do you see a trend in a reduction in complaints generally? Or not?
Petra, would you like to?
Again, yes, if I may assist. It seems over the last 12 months, and remember, I've only been dealing with the last 6 months, but I did review the previous 6 months. Numbers have remained constant, but specifically for the last 6 months, the majority of complaints were allegations of lack of respect, bullying, accountability and transparency. But I would say the majority were lack of respect across all the councils that were, all the parish councils that were involved.
Yes, please do, Councillor.
I think from reading the report, a lot of those allegations of lack of respect were not upheld. Is that correct? So is it just an lack of understanding of what should be done, or is there actually an underlying problem, do you think?
Yes, I think from my experience, there is an underlying problem, but perhaps the perception is worse than the reality, in that members always become energized through local meetings in any event, and sometimes that is misunderstood. The passion of the moment is misunderstood, and that I would say. But I think perhaps as training develops in the few months going ahead now, perhaps that can be come better through the training, and I hope that will help.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anybody here want to have a voice at one of our route meetings? Is it relevant to push to forward training? When you're speaking to parishes, you could speak via a route meeting, if that would help. So we'll put that there as an offer.
Butcher, I believe you have a view on that.
Thank you, Chair. Although in terms of training, it's a matter really for the relevant town and parishes as to how they want to employ training and devolve training to the relevant councillors. If there was a request came from the relevant town and parishes, it's certainly something that myself and my colleague, the Chief Executive, would consider. But in terms of how we push that through and whether that's a cost and that can be picked up by the relevant town and parish, I think that's something that will have to be discussed.
So, people, if it's a lack of understanding that's the issue, primarily rather than a real underlying problem of disrespect, maybe just a few words to all the councils when they're in one place at one of our up meetings might help to underline that actually you need to understand it first. So we'll leave it out there as an invitation if you'd like to.
I have a feeling that we, in full council here, we are an alliance on one side and a large Conservative group on the other. But though there are divergences of view, obviously, we've always managed to deal with it in an impersonal way. That doesn't mean dispassionate, but it does mean impersonal. Also, I think the formality of this building probably just dampens maybe the more high-spirited comments that might otherwise be made. I think the parishes, one thing they should be made aware of is, first of all, you have other recourse. You don't have to push the complaints button immediately. And secondly, by pushing the complaints button, you initiate a task for our officers. And I'm sure all the parishes are aware that we do not have a lot of money and we do not have a lot of spare officer hours to spend. So there is a cost. It's not just raising a flag because you feel outraged. That's perfectly reasonable. But I think the people who are doing so should say, am I outraged enough to warrant valuable officer time being spent to investigate this, to look at it, to log it, and to have it discussed at a subsequent meeting? So I hope that parish councillors who are watching this now or watching a recording subsequently will say, no, debate, yes, please do. Agitate it, and active debate, yes, please do. But treading on each other's toes constantly, please don't. Thank you. Right, we now move on in that case, if you feel you've covered items 5 and 6 adequately. Sorry, Councillor Gray.
Sorry, Chair. I just wonder if on page 9, agenda item 6, paragraph 3, whether we should acknowledge the typo where Mark Legg's name appears twice by mistake. Should we just acknowledge it that was a typo?
I'm sure that will have been noted, Julie. Bless you, thank you.
Chair, we need to approve both of the reports. So we need to ask Councillor Gray to...
So as this report is for noting and it is approved, is the committee happy to approve that report? Right. Butta, do you feel we've dealt adequately with items 5 and 6, and are you happy to move on to item 7, which I think is yours again? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, indeed. So moving on to the next item, Chair. So item 7 relates to the extension for the independent person, Bob Brown, Chair. You'll see on paragraph 3, it talks about the need to renew once to a maximum of 8 years, Chair. And in terms of Mr. Brown, his extension is up, Chair, and his initial term in office will expire in July, Chair. So the recommendation, Chair, is to extend his term for a further 4 years until July 2029, Chair. Over to members, Chair. Thank you. Chair, I should just add, with Ms Durham in the office, Chair, in the chambers, her term is due to finish in December 2027, Chair.
Thank you, but yes, obviously with local government or reorganisation, any decision we make which is more than 2 years in the future is liable to be a virtual decision rather than one that becomes a practicality. So has anyone any objections to that extension, or does anyone want to make a general comment? So are we all agreed to that extension? Councillor Gray, thank you very much. Right, we now move on to item 8. Yours again, Butta.
Chair, sorry, thank you. Just in relation to item 8, Chair, so this was the government's response, consultation response to the possibility of changing the legislation to allow for remote meetings for all meetings, and also that of proxy voting, Chair. The details in terms of the consultation responses outlined within the report, Chair. All I would say is that, from my understanding, any change in legislation will take a period of time. I note that the intention was to do that when the government is able to and get time in order to do that. So I'm not sure how quickly that's going to happen, Chair, to be honest. But yeah, let's wait and see.
Thank you, Butta. My personal view is that it is more likely that a new protocol for remote meetings and proxy voting will be established alongside the new unitary authorities. What the mayoral authorities are doing, I don't know, but they're going to be so far above us, we're not going to see from here. The comment I think, or at least my councillor on my right will want to make is about welcoming perhaps the ability of councillors not to have to get into their cars to travel to meetings as much. Councillor Gray?
I agree.
Thank you. Any other comments on proxy voting and remote attendance?
Chair, sorry, if I can just add, this report was drafted by my colleague, so I would like to give the opportunity for my colleague to add anything else that she may wish to add. Petra, would you like to say anything else, or are you happy with how it's been dealt with?
Thank you. Thank you, Butta. No, I'm absolutely happy. Thank you, everyone.
Apologies for not bringing you in, Petra.
Thank you, Chair.
Don't be silly.
Right, so now we move on to the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman Complaints Report, which is quite a weighty tome and is going to be summarised for us by Mark Adams. Mark?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. So I'd like to introduce the report. Firstly, just to cover some terminology for those that are either new to the committee and for your reference, Chair. So when we look at complaint investigation, we look at outcomes. So there are three, I suppose, main outcomes that the Ombudsman looks at. So we've got upheld. So this is where they find fault with the council. There's not upheld, so this is where they don't find fault in the council's actions. And then you'll see from the report there's not investigated. So the not investigated part can be a variety of reasons. The likelihood is, they won't find substantial fault with the council's actions. Other areas that they will put not investigated, it's not in the public interest to investigate a complaint. And in terms of when we look at a complaint, we look at two things. We look at maladministration and injustice. So maladministration is, if we fail to act properly, we've given poor service, there's excess delays, there's officer behaviour that isn't appropriate, or we've given the wrong advice. And normally then that leads to injustice. So, if we find maladministration, then we look at what's the impact it's caused to the customer. So injustice, can range from financial loss, hurt feelings, loss of right or amenity, or, and as well as the time and trouble to make a complaint. So that's a very quick summary. What I'll do in future is include a term of reference, a glossary to explain these for I say future meetings. So if I draw back to the report, the report covers from the 8th of November 2024 to the 11th of June, in which there were 5 ombudsman complaints. 3 were not investigated, 1 was upheld, and 1 was not upheld. So in relation to the upheld complaint, it related to a planning enforcement long-standing complaint that goes back to 2021. And whilst the progress has been very good, unfortunately there was a period where the Ombudsman found fault, where we failed to provide the complainant updates on the ongoing matter. So I have addressed this with a learning outcome, or progress to a learning outcome, where we're working with the head of planning to resolve this. There are huge pressures on planning enforcement, and we do have a code, a guidance, a procedure that we follow to address planning enforcement complaints, and it's making sure that we as part of that we manage expectation, which can be difficult. It can be tricky. Planning enforcement can take a good length of time to resolve, especially if it does go to a court process. But ultimately, we need to manage expectation. So we are working with the head of planning to resolve that for future complaints. It does predate his time joining us, but he's keen to make sure that we move things forward. So I'm happy to take a pause if there's any questions before I go to the non-ombudsman complaints at this stage.
Any questions from anybody so far? I'd just like to make a remark. Mark, do you have the ability to get visibility from councils of a similar size to ourselves as to how their record is with the Ombudsman, and whether we're good, bad or indifferent?
Thank you, Chair. That's really interesting points to take forward. We have the Ombudsman publicise all authorities' complaint handling, and it might be something to take forward as an action to do a bit of an analysis of, I suppose, Sussex-wide or East Sussex-wide authorities. Looking at the complaints that they receive, just to, I suppose, give a bit of a benchmark in terms of topic, how we're doing in relation to that. But like I say, planning and planning enforcement will always be a high contentious issue, and it does constitute a large portion of our complaints, especially the ones that do go to the Ombudsman. But I can take that forward, Chair.
Thank you, Mark. Another aside from the Chair. We're in the last days of Rother District Council, but I don't think that should ever mean that we take our eye off our standards and procedures and start thinking, well, it doesn't really matter that much. During the next 2-year period, I think it's vitally important that we do maintain to show the value essentially of a district council and the disciplines that have worked at district level, and hopefully some of those protocols will get incorporated into the new unitary authority. But just because it's 2 years, let's not take our eyes off the ball. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Colleen. Councillor Colleen? Councillor...
Yes, hello. Sorry, just a point to make.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
Thank you. With my cabinet planning position hat on, if you like. Yes, the new head of planning is working very hard on enforcement and to improve it. He recognises the issues. Also, he's in the process of employing another enforcement officer, because one of the issues they have had has been that they have been extremely low in staffing. So I hope we can say that this is it's definitely not something that he's not taking good notice of, and certainly we're not letting it be. It doesn't really matter. It is something that we're investing another member of staff in. Okay, thank you.
And thank you. Any other comments from the floor? No. So I do you wish to summarise you do. Fine. Over to you again, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. So I suppose the second part of the report looks at non-ombudsman complaints. Again, I'll explain that the process that we follow that leads to an ombudsman complaint. So we have several stages. So we have stage 1 and stage 2, but we also have a service request stage. So a service request is where a customer finds an error or concern with the department's actions, but raises a complaint straight away. It doesn't give opportunity for that department to address the issue or look to correct it. So we do get a lot of service requests that come in as a complaint, and we have to allow that department that opportunity to address the issue if possible. And again, if the customer is still aggrieved or unhappy with the outcome, then we can then formalise that as a stage 1, stage 2 complaint. So stage 2 complaint, I suppose, is the first step of a formal complaint. It's normally investigated by a manager from the area in conjunction with our complaint administration team to ensure there's independence in that investigation. A response will be drawn up and issued to the customer. The customer then can look at that complaint, and if they still remain aggrieved or unhappy with the outcome, they can escalate that to stage 2. Now, stage 2 is a bit of a review of that stage 1 complaint, and it's done via a senior manager, normally a head of service, but it can involve a director or deputy chief exec, or ultimately our chief exec. And once a stage 2 has been completed, the customer then has the gateway to go to the ombudsman. If they go straight to the ombudsman without making any formal contact with the authority, the ombudsman will turn them back to Rother to ask them to go through our complaints process. And Chair, I'll address some of your points you made in relation to kind of that journey into LGI over the 2 years later in the report. I think it's paragraph 11 that details our way forward. The report details that we received 90 ombudsman complaints. 33 of these we treated as non-complaints, so these were service requests. 10 of these were non-Rother District Council issues. So 33 of these were treated as stage 1, 14 were treated as stage 2, and we had none that were vexatious. So of the 33 stage 1 complaints, 4 were resolved at what we call initial stage. So this is where we try to address the issue, I suppose, informally with the customer via the telephone, to try and look at if we can look at a bit more of a proactive approach. If it's something that can be resolved, relatively quickly, and then we have, our stage one where we look at outcomes. So, sorry, I'm trying to keep up with the report. So, out of the 33 stage one complaints, 4 were resolved at the initial stage, 14 were not upheld, 5 were upheld. 3 of these were pushed straight to stage 2, and that there are 6 that are currently under investigation, and then 1 was withdrawn. So the report details all of our stage 1 complaints from page 29 through to page 30. There's also a summary of area that the complaints are from in the pie chart underneath the detail, plus also the length of time we have taken to, the average response time that we've taken to address all our stage 1 complaints. In relation to stage 2, we received 14 stage 2 complaints, so 3 of these were not investigated, 8 were not upheld, 8 were not upheld and 3 were upheld. And again, a full detail of all those complaints, and also a link to their stage 1 complaints are detailed in the report from page 32 to 34. And again, there's a pie chart that shows the area for our stage 2 complaints, and again, the average response time taken. Again, I'm happy to take a pause at that stage if we want to ask questions, or I'm happy to continue with the report if members wish.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions? I have one. Non-ombudsman complaints. Obviously, as guardian of the complaints register, the complaint comes to you. Are you happy with the level of support you get from other departments within the council when you try and resolve or dig into these complaints and see what's really behind the complaint?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in general terms, the response from departments is generally very good. There is a balance of demand and a normal work pressure that does sometimes impact the response times, or the times that we have to chase a response. The system does automatically prompt officers for a response, but generally, we are very, very good at handling our complaints, and rarely do we fall down with that. Having said that, we are slightly outside our time frame in terms of response. So the average time is not where it needs to be. So work does need to happen with the priority of complaints. But again, some of these are very complex complaints, and they do involve a lot of days and time of investigation. And if we do need more time, we do liaise with the customer to extend that time frame. But again, we are looking to align with the new code of complaints practice that the Ombudsman will be formalising from April 26. So that time frame shortens even more. But like I say, I'm happy to go through that in a bit. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Again, my health warning to those generating Ombudsman's complaints. As you've heard, they do take officer time. So please, it is your right to complain to the Ombudsman. But remember, when you do so, that is officer hours that are maybe not going to be spent resolving the problems with the service you're complaining about. So it is a balancing act. It's a shame we don't have all the time in the world to investigate everything, but we don't. But it's a two-way street. We guarantee to investigate to the best of our ability, but we would like to think that those complaining do a first tranche, a triage, if you will, and the first question should be, do I really need to do this? Thank you. Any other questions for Mark or on the topic in general?
Chair, if I can assist in terms of the topic in general. So I note the new complaint handling code, and I think that's come about with the shortened timeframes because of the introduction of the Housing Ombudsman's Code, which has reduced the timescales. And all I would say is there's a slight difference in between both. So the Housing Ombudsman has more regulatory powers, statutory powers, than the Ombudsman dealing with local government and social care. And that was introduced fairly recently. But there may be a move to give the same kind of regulatory statutory powers to the local government Ombudsman, which isn't the case at the moment. Now, if that is the case, then there will be a requirement to align everything in line with the code, whereas currently the code is guidance. So that's what I would say at this stage.
Thank you for that, and I'm sure you'll be coming back to us in future meetings if the implications of this new handling code require you to tell us what we should or shouldn't be doing. Thank you. Well, oh, yes, of course. We need to agree the report. Does everyone accept the report? Councillor Gray, thank you very much indeed. That's accepted. One general announcement I have to make. Petra, I believe this is your last Management Standards Committee appearance before you leave us.
Yeah, we've still got an agenda. We've still got an
Yes.
agenda item.
Oh, I've been told there's an agenda item to come, but I will, as I've started, I shall just take this now and say the committee would like to express its thanks for the work you've done so far and wish you luck, whatever you're doing from here on in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Right, apologies to Democratic Services and to Julie in particular. We now go on to the work programme, which I'm sure you've all looked at. Is it satisfactory? Are there any additions you would like to see? I'll take that as satisfactory. So we agree the future work programme. We do? Thank you very much. I think, unless anybody has any other business, that brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. Thank you all for sitting here in the heat. Yes, enjoy the rest of your day.
So if you say the time that the meeting is officially finished.
I've been reminded I should officially close the meeting at 20 to 11. Thank you.